talking Penn State football with Tim Aiden from Black Shoe Diaries, the SB Nation platform for Penn State athletics. Please join him there for coverage on the Nittany Lions as they vie for another Big Ten championship this season and off to a great start in defeating Akron 52-0. Interesting matchup with Pitt of the ACC, a team that knocked off not only Penn State last year, but Clemson as well. And, of course, a renewal of one of the best rivalries in college football going back to the 1980s. And before that, I know, Tim, last year at this time, we were talking up some of the matchups that you remember with the Pitt Panthers. So it's good to see for college football, these two teams get together at Pitt last year. High-flying game. Pitt jumped out to a big lead, had to hang on for the victory. And then, of course, Penn State gets the return visit this year. Do you have any real concerns for this game? Obviously, Pitt's a capable opponent, so it's not a give-me win by any stretch, but Penn State's going to be a pretty large favorite. I haven't looked at the line, but pretty substantial favorite in this one.
Well, the line as of yesterday, it was 18.5 for Penn State. I don't know if that's changed at all since the time of recording this. But, it's certainly Pitt is not Akron. They'll definitely be, a more formidable opponent. Certainly they're going to be fired up for this one. They always, they treat this game like their Super Bowl whenever they play us. So you got to expect their best shot. But, so it wouldn't surprise you if they do come out swinging from the beginning. Maybe they even take the lead to start the game. And, people wonder, man, are we ever going to get over the hump here and beat Pitt again? But I could see it being close at halftime. But but I'll tell you, Joe Moorhead is one of the best in the country at making halftime adjustments with his system, and I do think at the very least, second half they start to just pull away. I think the lack of experience and the combination of lack of experience and the suspended starters, especially in the secondary, is really going to hurt them in the long run. I can see Juwan Johnson, Mike Gesicki, and company having a field day in the end. And of course, Saquon Barkley, he will get his pounds of flesh and then some, no matter what they try and do. So, and the thing actually, I know to keep in mind, Mark, but last year when they were playing at Pitt, they really hadn't been running Trace McSorley much at that time. They hadn't really felt they were ready to unleash him as far as running the ball was, but they ran him 12 times on Saturday against Akron. And it shows not only that, but they also lined up the backup quarterback, Tommy Stevens, in the backfield from at times. And Moorhead said they planned, Franklin said in postgame, they have packages designed for the two of them to be on the field at the same time. And Stevens will be a part of the offense going forward. So I remember the announcers were criticized. One was being critical about, revealing your hand before you've played a team like Pitt. But I've also seen people make the argument that what you're doing now is you're basically making the coaching staff at Pitt have to worry about another dimension of your offense. And it's almost like saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. And, let's see you try and stop this.
Exactly. You can think of that a number of ways, is the way you just described it. But also, as you just mentioned, your perspective that, you're giving them another dimension to think about and thinking, okay, they showed us that last week. What else can they do off of that? Can we possibly game plan against that they could do off of that they didn't show us last week, even though they showed us the formation? And it takes away practice time from other things that they wanted to work on. And when you've got possibly the best back in the country to worry about in the backfield, and then you are that anemic in the pass defense category, which has to drive Pat Narduzzi crazy as a defensive whiz, that they were awful in pass defense last year. And as you mentioned, they lose one of the best safeties in college football. And Hunter Wells of Youngstown State ripped them to shreds for 311 yards passing, about 18 yards per pass completion. Trace McSorley and his fleet receivers have to be licking their chops to get at this Pitt secondary.
Oh, certainly. Like I was saying, and I think I mentioned earlier, Trace and Saquon are becoming known for running that wheel route to perfection. And I think I said Hunter Wells was burning Pitt with that wheel route all day on Saturday. So, I mean, sure, I would be very surprised if Penn State doesn't go to the wheel route early and often, knowing that. But I just think it's just going to be the different looks that Joe Moorhead's going to throw out now. He's got a far more experienced team than he did this time a year ago when they had to go to Pitt and take on a Pitt team that had experience in key places, quarterback and the D-line and secondary. That's not quite the case this year. So, I mean, like I said, while I do think Pitt will make it a game for at least a half, I just think the talent and experience advantage is from Penn State's just going to be too much for them in the end. So, I mean, I feel the 18.5 point line, I think it's just about right. Wouldn't be surprised if it dropped a few points, but a 2-touchdown favorite sounds about right.
Penn State with quite the gauntlet after they face Pitt, and not dismissing this game whatsoever. You lost to them last year. It's a big rivalry. Pitt's a solid ACC team, so in no way am I dismissing it, even though ESPN gives it a 93-7 advantage on its probability factor for a Penn State victory. And then, as you know, Georgia State, and I was just looking at this Big Ten schedule, man, it dives in and gets heavy and difficult from the get-go, with a trip to Iowa City to take on the Hawkeyes, Indiana, Northwestern Michigan, Ohio State in a row. It's pretty serious once you dive into Big Ten play, but we'll get to that in future weeks. For right now, it's the Pitt Panthers at home for Penn State, obviously wanting to defeat its in-state rivalry. Tim Aiden from Black Shoe Diaries, join him there for Penn State football coverage on SB Nation. Tim, we appreciate the time.
Oh, certainly. Thanks for having me on.